Hi everyone, it's Promise Adara again. Yesterday was the so-called Democracy Day in Nigeria, and I purposely did not want to speak on democracy because I know that there is no democracy in Nigeria. And even if we are practicing that on paper, it's one of our biggest problems. Democracy has proven to be extremely expensive, and why you see our politicians, once they get into power, they start looting money is because they are preparing for their next election. And in some cases, they have to pay for some of those people that invested in them for them to win the election. So it's a business. Parties come together, borrow money from party members, borrow money from nationals and banks, run the election. If they win, everybody gets their money with interest, get rewarded by positions so they can steal more money. So now I don't know why Nigeria left the system that the British left us. I don't know why we left the parliamentary system. Well, I know, but of course, what I'm saying is we could have stayed with the UK system. We could have stayed with the parliamentary system, because if you check the cost um, of running elections, I googled it the other day on my life with a few people that were there, and then we found out that we actually more we spend more money than America. Nigeria spent in the total election, it cost about $16 billion. For Americans, with crowdfunding and all of that, Americans still spend about $14 billion to run election. Just go on Google and type the cost of running an election in UK, US, and Nigeria. Now in the UK, it's about 180 or 108,000 pounds. So, they don't. In fact, they cap it. They cap it. An individual running election, I think you have to spend at the most 1,000 or 10,000. I can't remember now, but they cap their spending in terms of elections. So that said, we need to really look at what we are practicing, and a few people have spoken about this. I think Peter Obi also alluded to this, that we're not even practicing democracy in the first place. But even if we were, I don't think democracy is the best fit for us. It doesn't help us to choose who we want, because ultimately INEC chooses who won or who win, and ultimately, in the case INEC didn't choose, the judges we decide whatever, and anybody can be part over. So places like South Africa and India showed how things can be done electronically, but I don't think Yakubu Mahmoud can deliver us that. He's very corrupt, in my own assessment. He allowed late voting in some parts of Nigeria. He allowed early voting in some parts of Nigeria. Some people were breaking the rule. Buhari, some other key people were breaking the rule right in TV. You're not supposed to show who you voted for, but these people were displaying it openly, and nothing happened. Even when all the parties were protesting that things were not done right, he went ahead to declare winner. So at the end of the day, um, you know, I think Peter B was saying the other day that just INEC alone took about 1 billion naira just to run that election. 1 billion naira just to run an election, 1 day event. Well, let's call it a 1 week exercise just to give people, more room for argument. Now, as that is not enough, the EU observers, the EU also gave Nigeria a lot of money, thousands or thousands of euros to run the election. So if you think about it, what it costs parties, what it costs everybody, that's why he's running into that amount or that figure. But I think, as the poverty capital of the world, it makes no sense for us to be spending that much in elections. Now, I watched this young man called Randy Peters' video on democracy, and he really did, speak quite a lot. I wanted to share his video, but eventually didn't. And I just finished watching the interview of Mr. Peter Obi. You know, his assessment, and he's a man of figures. I love him because he understands data. He understands the power of data, and these are things that I expect Nigerians to be wise enough. You see a man who has started at three countries. You see a man who has shown antecedents. You see a man who has shown integrity. You've seen a man whose private and public life is before you, bare, transparent, and everything, and they cannot find anything on him. But you choose to follow or vote or campaign for a man who has a lot of files with the FBI, and whatnot, who has a lot of dents, who don't have alma mater, and so forth and so on. But at the same time, keeping all of that aside, right? He's now the president, so we have to, say sorry to him for tripping, even though he said it was swagger or stagger. I couldn't hear exactly what he said. But at the same time, making excuses for his abada is not the point. The point is there are a list of ailing presidents. There are a list of people who falls. We all campaigned for Trump. We know what Biden is achieving for us there in America, who is affecting the whole world, inflation everywhere. Even here in the UK. That's what happens when you go for a bad leader or a less productive leader. And I hope Americans get this right and vote Trump in to bring America back to glory, because China has surpassed them. Even Russia is getting stronger every day. So America needs to fix up quick, and the whole West as well need to follow suit. So that said, let's come back to Nigeria. I love what Peter Obi did on the interview with Charles on Arise, where he speaks to data. Shows he's a man that works with data, right? And then these are the things we are supposed to look at for as the intellectual youth of Nigeria. But then you see people like Tinubu saying, "Oh, now statistics we go shop," and then people will laugh. Are you dumb if you are laughing at that? If you are laughing at what he says and think you are not supposed to listen to statistics, you're supposed to work with data. Yes, you're supposed to listen to statistics. So if you see a man of statistics, you know he's informed with empirical facts. He's not making things up his head, and that's why he said everything he's speaking to is facts. What is our GDP? Buhari performed well, better than Tinubu. Because in terms of GDP, Nigeria, with the worst record that we had when Buhari was in power, was actually the biggest in Africa. Now we are number 4. Human capital development, we are human development indices. Sorry, human capital, what do you call it? Per capita, right? We are actually what do you call it? On 1,000 plus. Where South Africa is 6,000 plus. Algeria and Egypt are ahead of us. So at the end of the day, we are not the giant of Africa. So when I see that word, it pains me. Even when we are the biggest GDP, I used to argue with people that all those things are just paper. They are just capitalists who are making money from us. Do you understand? Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, P2B is IPOB, blah, blah, blah." Please, we know who the IPOB leader is. It's Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You can choose to be a tribal leader. You can choose to be a nationalist. You can choose to be a Pan-Africanist. You can choose to be a globalist. There are people who are global citizens who don't care which country they end up with. They're so rich. They're capitalists. They have what do you call it? Multi-citizens of different countries. If, as a matter of fact, you can invest in any country and they will give you citizenship by the virtue of the amount of money you invest. Do you understand? There are people who can sleep today in this continent, wake up in another continent. There are people who have access to the whole world. They are globalists. They are multinationals. They are everywhere. They don't have any loyalty to any country. All they care about is their money. And there are many countries like that. So there are people who are on the globalist level. There are people who are on the Pan-Africanist level. There are people who are on the nationalist level. There are people who are, who want to see their tribe or their locality or their sub-nations, do well. Peter Obi is a nationalist. Peter Obi says, has only one passport. He believes there is no other country than Nigeria. And that's his. You need to take people and allow people to tell you who they are. And if you don't know who you are, people will tell you who you are. He has told us who he is, and let's follow him through on that. Now, a lot of numbers came forth in that interview. And I want to speak to a few of them. And I was saying this the other day, right? And I need us to pay attention, right? Peter Obi says the aide of one of the speakers of the National Assembly said that that we lose 300 barrels of oil every day. And he also quoted that Tony Elumelu said we lose 50% of what we drill. 50% of what we drill per day. Now, Peter Obi did his wonderful mathematics with his calculator. With the 300, he worked with the 300. He left the 50% that Tony Elumelu did, because if you work with Tony Elumelu's figure, your calculator will burn, because all you have to do is to divide 1.2 that we are producing right now, divide it into 2, right? And that will give you about 650 or so, or 700, right? So about 650 or so. If you multiply 650 times $75, it will tell you how much you are losing per day. But let's work with 300, which is a bit fair, coming from this government. Now, the aide said 300 barrels. Peter Obi just multiplied that by 75, and it was giving him 22 mil plus 500,000. So $22,500,000. And what he simply did was using the exchange rate of 1,450 per dollar. That was coming up to 30 something billion per day. That's what Nigeria is losing every day. 30-something billion naira. Now he multiplied that by a month, and that was going to, I think, 1 trillion 12.5 billion. That is 1 trillion 12 billion 500 million. Listen, anybody that is supporting this government, whether it is on minimum wage, whether it is on any issue, you are wicked, you are heartless. Knowing what we are losing, yes, I know that not everybody is involved, but these are what and that's what he said in that interview. This is what he expects the whole security agencies in Nigeria to be going after. What is the reason why we are losing this 300 million? People have said it millions and countless of times. From the Goodluck Jonathan time, even in Buhari time, people have said it on air everywhere, saying that the government is aware of this. Instead of Nigerian youth to speak to issues, people are coming up to defend why we cannot pay mega. I think the National Labour Congress now have brought it down to about 200 and something thousand. Pay that money. I don't care if people say, oh, we're not going to keep it, we're going to have inflation. Which inflation? Increase the purchasing power. Reduce inflation. Look at your GDP. All your manufacturers are living every day. Shame on Nigeria, shame on APC, and that's all I have to say. For this last 1 year is colossal failure. It's F9 parallel. And I want to stand with what Peter Obi said. If, in fact, in 2027, Peter Obi still want to come out, because for me, I will just tell him that Nigeria is not, we don't deserve him. I've been saying this for long. We don't deserve him. What Nigeria deserves is a Milokon. Let them stand on that Bola Tinubu's mandate and let them suffer more, because their sense no correct. They want to vote tribal lines. Let them continue. But if Peter Obi come out again in 2027 and you guys make that mistake again, sorry for you, because you guys don't see what this man is seeing and telling you guys the truth that he's telling you. And for all it's worth, I will say goodbye from here.